We're turning to the war in Ukraine now. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's surprise visit to Kyiv today, an announcement of new support, comes at a crucial time in the conflict. After rapid Russian gains at the onset of the war, Ukrainian forces made steady progress regaining territory. But since the start of this year, that progress has slowed, and Russian forces are entrenched along much of eastern Ukraine and Crimea. Joining us now is Suzanne Loftus, a research fellow at the Quincy Institute's Eurasia program. Suzanne, thanks for being with us. We're now over 15 months into this conflict, and of course some thought that Russia might claim a quick victory, but Ukraine has had support of countries like Canada and the U.S. How important has that been, and how much is Ukraine relying on that assistance to continue?
Ukraine is heavily relying on that assistance right now in its efforts at defending itself against Russian aggression. It has been the most important source of support from NATO countries, and it has enabled and allowed Ukraine to properly defend itself. Without that support, the Russians would have been able to advance much further than they already have. And this includes not just military support, but also humanitarian support. But at the same time, while the support is very important, we need to strategize about how long it's going to last and how long we're going to be financing what's going on in Ukraine right now. We need to kind of come up with an end game.
And that's, I think, what a lot of people are wondering about. Speaking of support, though, there was a major event in the conflict this week, the destruction of a dam on the Dnipro River. Do we know who destroyed it and why?
We still don't know who the perpetrator was. It would be improbable that it would be the Russians, actually, because this hurts them a lot as well. It floods all of their the Russian-controlled parts of there's agriculture that's flooding, but also it's preventing the supply of water to Crimea, and this is very important. This is very important in general for the Russians. So it would seem a little odd that they would do that to themselves. So at this point, we don't know who did it. It's possible that it could have been unintentional and that it just got destroyed over time due to limited strikes that caused some weaknesses.
Well, how has the destruction of the dam impacted Ukraine's counteroffensive?
Yeah, so right now, because of all the flooding, Ukrainians are not conducting any large-scale activities in that region, but that would just be temporary. They could do so later when the water subsides. At this moment, the main counteroffensive movement and activity has been seen mostly in Donetsk. We've also seen some in Zaporizhia, Soledar. But this is also not quite the major units are not quite sent yet. This is more of a preliminary phase to kind of test Russian vulnerabilities. And so we're yet to see a major activity.
You know, you touched on this a bit earlier, but both sides appear entrenched. Are there any options for an exit from this conflict?
Well, at this moment, both sides are extremely far away from one another in the sense that there doesn't seem to be any type of middle ground possible between the two. And at the same time, there's also what appears to be somewhat of a stalemated situation on the ground where both sides are making very small gains or small losses.
Suzanne Loftus from the Quincy Institute's Eurasia program, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.